Is that it's all related to the actions or the experiences of that particular person during that particular lifetime. And if nothing remarkable happens, maybe they just float on, but otherwise they might come back.
So the way I see your point is that you're saying if somebody is having a very extraordinary life, so in the next life, when he gets to remember his previous life, because he's already has attained a degree of knowledge or degree of, spatiality, for him in the next life, it becomes quite very strengthening and very, motivating force or kind of intense force, that because I already have accumulated a good degree of attainment in my state or in my energy, it is very easy for me, or it becomes inherently intense that I will get to know it. This is what you're saying, right? And if somebody has done nothing in their life and lived very or had trauma, and when it gets that experience, then it actually degrades his life. This is what you're trying to say?
No, all I'm saying is that whether it is someone that's attained a lot of knowledge and then had experience that is intense in that way, or whether it is a momentary intensity like being murdered or something like that, it's the actual, it's like you were saying before about people having emotions filter through them, and maybe at the time of death there is an intensity of emotion, irrespective of the source, that then projects itself to the next life. That's what I'm trying to say, maybe poorly.
But I mean, I don't know, knowingly or unknowingly, you touched a very interesting topic, and because I have many references of it. So now just getting more into this idea of reincarnation in the Vedic text, they say that at the time of death, the idea which is most strong in your head about the subject, you reincarnate to satisfy or to get trapped into the same emotion. For example, when you were dying and you had so much emotions for your child or your family, you will come back and be subject to the same environment, and you will kind of feel that degree of attachment, and it will continue till you will become detached. Means not like becoming, rude or something, but becoming content with your state of death. So when you're dying, there is a story I would like to mention, that there was one man, he was dying, and at the moment of dying, there was an insect in front of him which was actually getting birth. So he got attentive to that process so much that when he got reincarnated, he got into it. Again, a scary idea, and I really don't understand the rationale behind it, but I'm just kind of putting light on your and it is not part of all the religious explanations or commentaries or claims. Some of them, there are thousands of branches where people talk about it. So some of people also mention this, which I thought was worth mentioning it here. Yep.
Well, I've got some thoughts on combining what you've mentioned, Atish, and also what Ian's mentioned about the dead and their last moments of life. There's a concept of the restless dead. So the dead which have suffered a horrific end, an unexpected end, murder victims or been executed, and basically they've been killed in a way where they were unexpected or perceived to be not their time, but it happened anyway. So you have these spirits which are not lost, potentially can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Also, they could be spirits which have been, when they died, they were lost at sea. So the sailor who's fallen off overboard and lost at sea and has died there was never given their last rites, was never prayed for, the spirit was never consoled, or nothing was said about them. Therefore, that spirit is basically left stranded in a tragic location, which kind of connects to the idea that not necessarily reincarnate, you could just stay as a spirit or reincarnate in the area or location or in the context of the way you died. And also that's a way of explaining haunting, because if reincarnation was default, you wouldn't have ghosts, because as soon as you die, you'd be somewhere else. If we believe in the concept of a ghost, that is a spirit that hasn't reincarnated and also hasn't passed on. So therefore, they are haunting a place, and that place could be a place of tragedy. So Ian, going back to your experiences in Auschwitz, there you go. They may not have reincarnated. They're stuck there, or what you're feeling potentially is the reverberation of the souls that suffered there. So that's just a way of kind of expanding reincarnation, giving it a context or a framework where it can go somewhere, but it could also have other pathways. So it's not like a default state for all humans.
I don't know if the ghost was reverberating or the head of Ian was reverberating.
Oh, well, I hope not, but that would definitely be scary, that's for sure.
Before going to that, degree of, conclusion or discussion, I would like to take it in a pure, intellectual terms. For example, we can see that there is a motion, first thing. Second thing, there is a unique identity or there is an energy, and it has motions attached to it. So that is why life takes space and grows or kind of progresses. And we also see that this entity, which we call as human, it has certain instinctual patterns of reactions or conduct by which we judge them on the merits or dismerits because they conduct. If they do not conduct, there is no concept of judging them, isn't it? Now, I'm putting this question that even in the current advancement of technological and scientific developments, we cannot even simulate or develop a bird or an ant. We cannot construct the particles or atoms of an ant to make an ant in the laboratory. Now there is an intelligence out there which is actually going around and keep on inventing new different styles and different figures and different creatures for its amusement perhaps. But somehow it is doing so sophisticatedly that is beyond comprehension of even the best minds in the world. So now, for me it is more kind of not scary, but more wondering idea is that this intelligence, which is actually keeping these atoms of specific creatures and birds and all that biological elements together and making it progresses. It knows that it wants reincarnation to happen, and if it wants, what is the purpose it is trying to serve? That intelligence, which is beyond our comprehension.
And this is the other thing. We've touched on this several times now, but the idea of judgment, how does this, if this is an intelligence or a force that exists, how does it judge a person to be sufficiently ready to proceed to the next level, or that they have insufficiently had a poor enough life that they need to now be a cockroach because I
think I have an answer about this, because according to your mains work, if you are doing bad thing, then it decides, someone can decide it. If you are doing good thing, then you will born a very, I will not say bad area, but yes, because whatever you are doing, it's depend when you will born, then it will totally depend what you did before that.
All right. So okay. Mm-hmm. So Ian, now when you said that the judgment stuff, did you put the light on the point of that this intelligence, which is actually sustaining all of this, are you questioning this intelligence, that what is the idea of judgment to the people?
They could actually be two separate entities. You have the one side of the intelligence, which is the one that's creating and recreating. You can have the other side, which is the one that's judging. And that's not the assumption there is, and it happens in a lot of Western mythology, is that there's one ultimate power that decides everything. Whereas in a lot of mythologies and in Indian culture, as far as I know, there's a lot of different deities that control different aspects of people's lives. So in my mind, it could be possible that there are multiple factors and multiple decision makers sitting in a committee room deciding this person is ready to go, and then that passes on to the resurrection factory, which then spits them out into the next life. I don't know. Like I said, I've been raised to believe in one all-powerful being that controls everything and then casts judgment. And to me, that is terrifying. Again, I'm probably the scared person of this podcast because then in some ways it is exactly what you're saying, Atish, in terms of motivations. Like, what is the motivation of this particular entity, and how does it then judge what is good and what is bad based on those motivations? I don't know. Suranga, you've been quiet. What's your thoughts on this?
Suranga, before you answer on this, I'm just touching one line on this, what Ian said.
Yeah.
Then when this intelligence is so sophisticated, why the hell it wants to keep people in the loop for perpetual struggle and do all these undesirable things here and destruction? Look at our so-called Mother Earth and what these human race has done to it till an extent. So just adding one line onto it, that now keeping what Ian has said and keeping what I'm trying to edit, what do you think on it?
To start off, the intelligence that it is, if it's wanting to be playing a game with itself, it is very deceitful in itself for the fact that it wants to try and not give out the answer straight away. It doesn't want to give out the answer straight away to the game that is playing itself. That is that until the last moment, it should not be given out. So it is something, I think, it can never ever be explained in words. I think in my mind, it's more the fact that
Minded. I will explain it one day.
It is a more experiential. The fact that I see the more and more that I be as a human as it may, is the fact that you are in the final step of evolution. To experience what is the last moment of your life is to make sure that you have gone through and contemplated everything in your life and know that what it is for, and then you complete.
So I have a question for the group, and I'd like to get an honest answer. Who here can remember anything from their previous life? Anything, even a moment? Or have you guys experienced a moment of deja vu or anything like that where you've gone, I feel like I've been here before, but I've never been here before? Vinod, have you had that experience before?
No, seriously no.
Well, before answering the question about previous life, let me ask you. Do you have memory?
Answering a question with a question.
Let me ask you, what breakfast you had 1 week back?
Well, 300 years ago, I had a nice oatmeal. And
I'm adding this question again on the point which Ian mentioned, that remembering about previous life is a very far more stuff to address or pay attention to. We do not have an awareness or remembrance what breakfast you had 1 week back.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. You started off, and it's the fact that memory itself. Memory is a very crucial aspect of a human being that being developed, and now we're getting into the area of computers and try and store that memory into computers. The fact that memory is something that is good and something bad is not. We cannot judge, but it's something we must really observe in its truest form.
Now you're touching memories, then I should say here that memory is the fundamental of all your experiences.
That's right.
What question you? Yes, Vinod.
Yeah, I'm just asking one thing. I don't remember my previous life, and I think we don't remember our previous life. What do you say, guys? Anyone remember the previous life?
All right, I'm going to chime in on this. I don't know whether it's a previous life, but I have recurring nightmares of dying at a point of a sword. So I don't have swords lying around my house. I don't walk around the office with a sword, so it's not a common thing in my life. And I've had them since childhood. Now, it could just be fantasy. It could just be a dream. They're terrifying, and the same imagery and the same visuals are always there. It's like the dream doesn't change. It's always the same type of death. Does it mean anything? Don't know. Did I die by the sword in the past? Maybe. If reincarnation is a true occurrence to have been slaughtered by someone in the past, yeah, well, that's happened to many people. So potentially. I can't verify it. It's just a little experience that I've had.
I must say that you have been watching so much Spartan movies.
Well, I mean, the idea of this memory is actually a form of proof. I mean, we're talking about this Prince of Bhutan who can remember clearly and vividly very specific things in his previous life as this professor. And Atish makes a very valid point. Most of us probably don't remember where we were 2 weeks ago and what we were doing, yet this child had such a vivid and strong connection and memory to these particular events. I'm going to play the skeptic here, and I would actually suggest that it's almost too accurate. If he was remembering his previous life, he probably should be a bit more forgetful, because that's what being human is. So
okay, so Ian,
there's that memory of attachment and detachment, right?
Yeah, so absolutely right, Ian. But just I want to ask one more question for regarding this. I'm not talking about only 1 week what you did, what breakfast you did, what breakfast you eat, and what you have given the exam. I'm not talking about one personal question. I am talking about your previous life. No one can forget the whole previous life. But if someone can think, I'm not talking about myself. I'm not talking about you. Not talking about every person. I'm just talking about a specific person who remember the previous life. Yeah. Previous life, if you remember, then they are not talking about a 1 week or 1 hour. They are talking about whole previous life.
Yeah.
So previous life, I think if someone remember, then, and if we are believing, then why we are believing? But but we have to believe because they have a proof. Whatever